Grand Rising. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be in the world. Hi, everyone. So good to see you. Trina Phoenix here. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the things happening kind of in the world right now and where we're at. And I want to talk a little bit about Nikola Tesla and an interview that surfaced on the internet, and the reporter that wrote this down, they never knew the name of, so it's all, you know, a hidden found reporting from a reporter between Tesla, and it's quite phenomenal. And I've been looking at that man's research for, oh gosh, a long time. I was actually gifted some of the technology in 95. So I've been working with it for many years. So I've always been very interested and very drawn to this man and what he was trying to do for the world and our planet. So I thought I would read this interview to you and see what you guys think about it. And let me know, let me know some of the conclusions that you think that he tried to bring to this world that we're still desperately trying to uncover. So, as it begins, a reporter had requested a private interview with Tesla towards the end of his life. And this was in 1934, and his name was never preserved. It was not supposed to be preserved. This was not to be written down. It was supposed to be given at a much later date, which it seems to have been delivered at a much later date, which is now for us. So this reporter went to Tesla, and he met him in his apartment on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. It was a time when the scientist had almost been completely forgotten. His funding had been stopped. Publications had vanished. Friends had all turned away. But it was then, against that backdrop, the silence and the solitude, the reporter asked to have an interview. Tesla started by requesting, "Please turn off the recorder. I will not entrust this to the recorders or the paper." The reporter wrote down his recollections of this interview many years later. And today, this is from his memory, and this is what we have left. So, these are his words put today before you as best as could be remembered. The question from the reporter was simple, almost naive. "Mr. Tesla, do you believe life was created by accident?" After a long pause, Tesla answered with a quiet laugh, and then he looked off into the silence and then spoke. "You know, I asked myself, even before I knew I would become a scientist, that very same question. No, young man, nothing in this world is by accident. Everything is a formula. The entire universe is an equation, and beyond it stands thought. Not a theory, not a hypothesis. Thought, consciousness, and creative. This is what it is." So the reporter, "You mean to say that reason stands behind creation and the creation of man?" "I say that reason stands behind the creation of everything. And if you only knew what I had arrived at after decades of experiments, Hmm. But humanity was not ready for it. He walked to the window and he was silent for a long time. And then he said, I tried to create a machine that could catch the voice of the ether. You know, ether. It's not just a medium. It is the memory of the universe, the thoughts, the emotions, the images, and the directions. They are all stored there. One day, I heard something. It was not a voice in the usual sense. It was an impulse, a direction. And I understood we were not just created. We were being guided. The reporter sat stunned. Guided? By who? Or whom? Tesla turned. His eyes unnaturally bright. The force that religions call God. But it is not an old man on a throne or a cloud. It is something much greater. It is a structure of consciousness so vast the human brain cannot comprehend it. I would testify to that as true. So we are cells for it, but not meaningless. Every cell matters. He started to pace the room. He ran his fingers through his hair. And then he spoke. When I worked on the transmitter in the Colorado Springs facility, I first felt that space, that breath. Yes, that breath. It breathes like a living organism. I sent out a wave and I received a response. Not an echo, a response. As if someone was there beyond matter. They realized that they had been noticed. The reporter, again, completely stopped everything, completely stunned at what he was hearing. He was just listening to every word. Tesla continued, my mistake was trying to prove it with instruments. But one must listen because everything has been sounding us for a long time. Even your soul. It is a resonance field, a frequency that will one day be read back. Echoes, mirrors. No one disappears. We are all vibration. And we do not vanish, said Tesla. The reporter finally dared to ask a question that had been burning inside of him. Excuse me, but you are a scientist. How can you speak of the soul of God as if it's something provable? Tesla's face became very serious, almost sorrowful. Because I no longer believe, I know. He paused, then he continued. I have studied electricity, magnetism, vibration. They are all manifestations of the same thing. Then, one day, I realized consciousness is also vibration. And it does not originate from the brain. It comes into it. But the brain is a brilliant receiver. But source is outside of us. We only think we are thinking, but in reality, we are simply connecting, and all are connected. The reporter, connected? Connected to what? To the field, to the source, to the very higher power, which religions call God, and the physics call the field. But I call it the light. He fell silent. A strange, almost childlike smile appeared on his face. He speaks again. You know, one day I tried to measure the power of emotion, anger, joy, love, and you know what I discovered? Everyone has a frequency. Love is the purest, the most harmonious. It is the closest to what I call the original vibration of this universe. And fear is the roughest. It repels, it isolates, and it binds and blinds us. The reporter, so are you saying... Oh, sorry, I gotta put my glasses on. Can't read my own writing. Okay, the reporter. So, are you saying that love is what brings us closer to this? This higher power? This source? I assert it, or confirm it. And more than that, it is its reflection in us. We were not created from clay, as one book writes, and not from a random molecule, as another claims. We were formed as a response to an answer, to the very call of the light. The reporter just slowly nodded, not taking his eyes off of Tesla. Everything is happening. It all seemed like a dream. But why then do we suffer? Why do we die? Why do we remember nothing of that connection? Tesla frowned slightly. His voice became quieter. Because this is a test. The blind learn to see best, and the lost best appreciate the path. We learn, as we've been cast away from the source, to learn to hear it again. This is not punishment. It is a path, and each life is a step upon it. He looked down at the window where the city lights were fading. You have no idea how many times I stood on the verge of a discovery that could have changed everything. One day, I created a resonance capable of affecting the body's cells. Diseases disappeared, but the project was shut down. They said, "You cannot give such power to the people. They won't understand it. They will fear it." Fear it? Who said that? Tesla gave a bitter smile. People who stand between humanity and the truth. There are many, and their task is to keep the masses in the dark. It benefits them when persons believe that he or she is just simply flesh, just a grain of sand, that after death there is nothing, because such a person is controllable. He is not dangerous. He doesn't ask questions. He just lives, fears, and then he dies. The reporter clenched his fist. He felt anger boiling inside of him. So what should we do? Tesla looked at him. Wake up. Waken, Tesla replied. Learn to hear again, not with your ears, but with your soul. Because every person, even the most forgotten, carries within them a spark of that light. And if you, he added, are not here by chance. Oh, and you, he added, are not here by chance. Perhaps you are one of those who must carry the spark forward. Silence fell into the room. The reporter felt with each word Tesla was bringing him closer to an edge between the ordinary perception of the world and something completely different, something else. As if through these words, something greater began to shine through. He made up his mind. Mr. Tesla, are you afraid of death? Tesla didn't answer right away. He gazed, dimly, and then he turned inward. Do you know, he said, slowly, I believe death is not the end. It is simply a shift of frequency. I once observed how the light disappeared. It didn't go out. It simply seemed to fold into itself, as if it became invisible. Yet it remained. I realized the death of the body is the same kind of folding. That form ceases to be visible, but the essence remains. That is what I believe. He looked directly into the interviewer's eyes. We do not vanish. We return to the source, to the very force from which we were summoned. And you haven't seen it. The corners of Tesla's mouth twitched, a smile barely noticeable. Sad. Yes, and more than I should have. There are things better left unseen until one is ready. One day, I was in a state between sleep and wakefulness. My body was here, but my consciousness was very, very far away. And then I felt myself outside of time. I saw events of the past and future all at once, people who did not yet exist, and those who had already been forgotten. Was that a vision? The reporter asked. It was a truth, because time is an illusion. Linearity is a convenient way for the mind to perceive, but the present, everything already exists. All the pain, the joy, the choices, they all return. Because in the end, we all return. We all return home. He fell silent. And then at the moment, lightning flashed outside. As he was looking out the window, a distant rumble rolled over the city. Tesla smiled, slightly. Nature. Nature hears it. It responds. We are all connected to it, much more than we ever knew or thought. It wasn't just conducting the experiments with electricity that I did. I was also searching for the structure of reality. And the further I went, the clearer it became. Matter is only a shell, but the true fabric of the universe is consciousness. The reporter no longer knew what to write, what to say, what to think. What simply felt like an experience. He felt like he was becoming a part of something completely bigger, something greater. "Excuse me," the reporter suddenly said, "but if this is true, if the soul is eternal, then why do people die in fear, in suffering? And why is there so much pain?" Tesla looked at him for a long time, then slowly said, "Because forgetting is a part of the path. Imagine you were going on a journey, but before that, you have to erase all of your memory." This represents the Fool in the tarot cards. The Fool, because you're a blank slate. You don't remember anything. You're just on an adventure. You have no idea. You're consciousness in a brand new body, in a brand new reality, and off you go. Oh, your memory. You don't know who you are or why you were here or even where you were going. And in that lies the main meaning: to remember. Not with the brain, but with the soul. To realize that you are not your body, that you are not here forever, that your pain is temporary, like a cloud in an eternal light. He stood up and walked to an old armchair and placed his hand on it. Everything you touch, everything you feel, even your fears, they are not your enemies. They are clues. The world is speaking to you. It gives signs. And if you learn to read them, the fear will vanish, because behind it always hides the light. The reporter could barely breathe. He felt his conversation was not just an interview. It was a message only to him and for him. Tesla quietly added, "You're not the first to ask these questions, but perhaps you were one of the first to truly hear when I answer them." Tesla closed his eyes for a moment. It seemed he heard something from within, something that wasn't sound. And then he said, "I don't have much time left. I feel it, not physically, but energetically, as if an inner pendulum is coming to a rest. But the fear is gone because I know what comes next." The reporter grabbed his notebook. "What comes next?" Tesla looked at him with an unexpected gentleness. "Remembering. It will be like walking from a long sleep, waking from a long sleep. I will once again hear the vibrations I was once separated from. We have all strayed from the source, not through guilt, but by design, to learn about ourselves within the separation, in the limitation. But at the moment of death, the reconnection occurs, and the soul remembers everything about who it is. It starts to remember where it comes from. He paced the room. Energy does not die. Never. That is the fundamental law. It can be transformed, but it cannot be destroyed. And that means it is consciousness. It is eternal because it too is energy, the most subtle and the purest. I tried to explain this to many scientists. They laughed and they said, "Consciousness is a product of the brain. Personality disappears after death." But then I asked them, "Where does the current go when you shut off a lamp? Does it disappear? Or does it just take a different path? There was no answer. Imagine an ocean without an edge, without a bottom, and you are a wave. It seems that you are separate, that you are form, movement. But one day, you submerge again, and everything that was you remains in the water. It does not vanish. It is not lost. It simply becomes everything. Are you saying that after death, we return to God, to something greater than God, to what God came from? Because even the very concept of God is too small to describe that force. It's beyond form. It's beyond images. It's beyond religion. It's beyond everything. The reporter looked at Tesla with reverence. He felt every word was true. It was not doctrine. It was not hypothesis, but pure knowledge. And yet he whispered, "If you knew this, why didn't you say it earlier? Why only now?" Tesla lowered his eyes, his voice almost a whisper. I tried in books, I tried in speeches, but people couldn't hear me. They didn't want to. They wanted formulas, they wanted proofs, they wanted diagrams. This truth cannot be measured. It can only be felt. And as my body, it is growing old, I understand the time has come to simply say it, without holding it back, because even if only one person can hear this, that will be enough. He sat down. His strength was beginning to leave him. This interview, he continued, is not for the newspapers. It is not for sensation. It was meant to remain in the shadows. I myself told that man not to publish it. So Tesla told him not to publish this. Keep this between them. Write it down and hide it. And that's what he told him to do, and that is what he did. And maybe now the time has finally come. The reporter flinched. Why now exactly? Tesla looked at him, straight into his soul again, because the world has come to the edge between technology and destruction. People have invented machines but have forgotten who they are. They fly into the sky but cannot look within. They fear death because they do not understand life. And now maybe it is time. It is time for people to remember and learn how to pause and be silent. Tesla then suddenly said, "You asked who created us. I will now answer." He paused. We were created by a consciousness that decided to become matter, light that wanted to feel itself as a body. We are its reflections, its project, its experience. We are not an accident. We are intention. The reporter felt these words burn, not through his mind, but through his heart, as if he wasn't the only one learning them, as if they were being heard for the first time. Beyond these walls of the room, someone else was carefully listening to every phrase and possibly recording them. He asked almost in a whisper, "If we are a project, did this force have an intention or a plan?" Tesla nodded very slowly and said yes. And perhaps it is far more complex than we can even imagine. He nods. I believe that we are fragments. We are particles scattered across the material worlds to explore it. We are sensors. We are experiments. We are born. We feel. We love. We make mistakes. And all of it returns back into the field, into what some would call the divine mind. Why so? So it could know itself. Because without it, separation, without that separation, we couldn't know. It couldn't know. Without the darkness, it couldn't become aware of its own light. Without the fear, it could have no appreciation of the love that it was in its origin. We are one of the ways that it is trying to understand itself through the multiplicity. So you believe that humanity has a purpose? Tesla leaned forward. Yes. But we've lost our way. He stood up and walked over to the bookshelves, and he grabbed an old book off the shelf and he handed it to the reporter. These are my calculations that were never published. I tried to build a device capable of amplifying thought, concentration, and vibration of consciousness, and to project it into the ether. So let me say that one more time. I tried to build a device capable of amplifying thought, concentration, and the vibration of consciousness and projecting it into the ether. And then he says, do you know what happened? When I ran the first experiment, the street lights began to go out. The radios malfunctioned. People complained of strange dreams. It wasn't a failure. It was a response. Space was listening. And then they came. Then they came. The men with ties and suits without any emotion. They said, stop this now. This is too dangerous. What they didn't like was what I had proven, which was thought is material. Consciousness is a power. And if a person realizes how powerful they are, they will stop being slaves. That means they will step out of control. He sat back down. It was clear that these memories hurt. That's why this interview can't be published. It couldn't be published then, and perhaps not even now. But I believe soon that there will be those who are not afraid, the ones who want to understand, and they won't obey. The reporter asks, and what would happen then? Tesla looked up. Awakening. A wave, a mass shift in consciousness. People will begin to see the invisible, hear the unheard, diseases will retreat, memory will return, the fear of death will vanish, because everyone will feel that they are not their body. They are fire. They are spark. They are a spark of eternity. And he looked out the window, and there was still a path ahead. He said, but it won't be easy. Then lightning struck the ground very, very close. The thunder was so loud. It felt as though the sky itself had shuddered. That's a sign, Tesla said. Always when the truth is near, the space responds. Synchronicity, not coincidence. It's a reminder. Everything is connected. Everything is one. He turned to the reporter. You feel it, don't you? The reporter nodded silently. Then you have already begun to awaken, Tesla said softly, and that means my time has not been in vain. Tesla's final words were not loud, but they struck like a blow into the chest. He said, everything is energy. All living things are vibration. And the closer you are to the original frequency, the closer you are to the truth. This interview is not about science, and it is not about religion. It is a message for those who already feel this world. It is not all there is. For the ones who already feel this world is not all there is. For those who have always known there is something greater, he looked directly at the reporter. You will have to choose to hide this or pass it on. But remember, time is near, very near, when the great division begins. And it is important that at least someone knows we are not alone, that we have never been alone. He stepped closer. His face was glowing and incredibly calm. Tesla, he said, I am leaving, but I am not disappearing. We will all meet again, because there is no death, no separation. There is only transition. He reached out his hand, and when the reporter touched it, he felt a strange warmth, as if for a moment, just one moment, we had both touched something beyond time. Remember, Tesla whispered, God is not dogma. God is you. When you love, when you forgive, when you remember who you really are. He turned away and walked to the window, stared at it for a long while, at the night glowing over New York, where the lightning was still flashing and the thunder was roaring. In the distance, he looked, and then he said, it begins. The reporter left without looking back. He did not know this would be his last meeting. 3 months later, Nikola Tesla died in solitude, without heirs, without recognition, and without all of his dreams being fulfilled. So I wanted to give this, guys, to you in remembrance of Nikola Tesla and the possibilities of his consciousness and the gifts he wanted to give all of us. And hopefully we can find a way to pick up where he left off. So I love you all. Have a wonderful morning, night, evening, day. And I will see you on the next one. Love you all.